Hi, my name is MachineRite, and this is Understanding Fortnite. Today I wanted to show the best way to review your endgames. Endgame awareness is probably the most important skill in the game, and that's not only for survival. The more things you can observe each game will also increase the amount you can actually learn per each game. And watching games from a drone-free perspective like this is going to help you learn what's going on around you, and it's also going to help you paint that picture for yourself while you rotate. So we're going to be watching some VODs that I got from Zykoma. So Zykoma is not only a top player, but in my opinion, he has one of the best mindsets in the game for improvement. His will to learn and his will to constantly improve is one of the best I've ever seen. And I think one of the most important skills in life is just the ability to constantly learn things. And if you want to learn the skill, definitely watch his stream, and he also has a YouTube and he posts videos very similar to mine, and expect to see him at World Cup. Okay, so the main thing we're going to be looking for here is not only just looking at how the build terrain gets built and how people move around the zones, and also just looking for situations that are impossible to win or might be out of your control and just finding ways to avoid those. And you can do this just by looking around, watching how people die, and figuring out why that happened. And this way you can not only learn from your own mistakes, so we know we're only going to have one winner. So technically we have 51 mistakes that we can possibly learn from here. And by watching every single one of these, the rate that you can learn is pretty insane. I also want to look at the map a lot because this can just tell me how the population is going to condense. And basically what this zone is telling me is that everybody's probably going to take the shortest path possible to get in zone. So this whole side here is going to be very congested and have a lot of people. And also where this zone is on the map right now, possible POIs that people have had to rotate from on this side of the zone are much higher. Okay, so here's the start of zone 5. So the way this played out is the most congested side actually got zone. So the population density in this zone is going to be very interesting because we already have a lot of people in the back. And then we're going to have all these people that are going to rotate just enough to get into zone. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a big pocket in the center here where there's going to be nothing. And what you're going to see later on is how important that is. Next thing to point out, being center zone during zone 4 actually doesn't help you at all, just because zone 5 is always going to be on the edge. Not only does center not help you, but being on the edge is actually advantageous. But you have this nice protected rotate because the zone is covering one side. So let's say I was one of these people in the middle. You'd want to rotate as early as possible before the population of the zone starts to stack up around this edge here. If you wait too long and you're in the center here, first of all, what's going to happen is people behind you are going to start running into you. And not only that, is you're going to have to push against a wall of a lot of players that are going to congregate around the outside of this zone. So yeah, if you're center zone, you got to take the bullet and you just got to go. Now let's say you're this guy. If he starts rotating early, he's going to have to go and run through a lot of people that just may not be moving. So what I would recommend for him is to actually just wait until all of these people start moving, and they normally will. A lot of people are going to rotate early in this zone. And you can see everybody actually got into zone pretty early. The zone has just started closing and pretty much 90% of the lobby is there. And you can see what's happened is the edge zone has built up like this and created like this pocket in the center. And you can see what I mean is there's a nice clean backside, and this guy may have been getting focused and has just moved backwards. And before we get into zone 6, I just want to go and point out some other things that you should be looking for. Specifically this situation right here. I call this a lobby focus. When you have 5 bullets hitting your wall at once, one of them is going to sneak through no matter what. Turbo build cannot outdo that. I want to go through what actually caused this. So earlier I mentioned we have this big pocket in the center with a lot of open people, because we're going to have the people that were already in zone already lined up against the back, and then we're going to have the people that are just rotating in lined up around the front. So we have this open pocket in the center, and basically what that means, we have a lot of potential lines of sight to worry about. We have this whole firing line wall that can potentially get a shot at these people out in the open here. Some people start fighting here, and I think he just wants to reposition himself to get away from that person. You see what happens is he starts building out in the open. So there's a couple things going on here. He's very exposed to many different lines of sight. Firstly built structures is basically like blood in the water. If you're building in the open and you have a lot of lines of sight, then that is most likely going to cause the lobby to shoot at you. And that doesn't only apply to that situation. That's something you can apply to the entirety of your endgame, because you're going to see in a second the exact same thing happens here. Fresh builds go up, so one guy starts shooting, and this is what happens, and he dies. You're going to see this guy builds up for some reason. I don't know if he wants hype before zone 6. Whatever his intention was, but you can see that same concept happens of blood in the water. People see fresh builds, one guy starts shooting, the entire lobby starts shooting, and he is literally the highest point in the lobby right now, or he's going to be anyway, and that basically means that almost the entire lobby has a line of sight on him. See, there you go, fresh builds again. He's now in the open, he gets lobby sprayed and he dies. See, zone 6 starts. People who have front of zone are going to start building up and basically just try to secure high ground. So one thing I want to point out here is once people get into this zone 6 circle, or basically the end of zone 6, they're going to stop moving, and that's going to change the way the game plays out. You now have a really distinct front of zone and a really distinct back of zone. The back of zone is going to be mostly your upper mid ground and your high ground. And basically this upper mid ground and this high ground, their position is all dictated by the mid ground and the low ground. And that's because they have to have something to build on top of to actually stay at that height. If this guy built all the way out, he'd basically get shot down. So his position is all relying on how far these guys build out. Now this situation can actually happen in zone 6 as well. And this would happen if you had a very distinct crowd of people on the front of zone 5. So what you just witnessed there is this mid ground and back of zone. A lot of people ended up being on the same layer and they got kind of caught in each other. When somebody's in front of you and you have no choice but to either go backwards or around the side, and this causes a big problem because there's going to be a lot of people building beside you and you're going to get stuck back there. And basically what happened is there's just kind of like a mass 50-50 that got caught back here and everybody had to fight each other. You can see it sort of happening again right here. Now what I want to kind of talk about are these guys right here that are really building out far. So if you look from this perspective, these guys are all very easy targets and these guys are all very easy to RPG. Now we didn't have a very distinct high ground. High ground seemed to be struggling a lot this game, but often early zone 7 and specifically zone 6, if it plays out similar to this, these guys often get focused. But I didn't see that happen just because there wasn't a very distinct high ground this game. Everybody was kind of in this layer. Then we had one or two guys that were still kind of like up on the high ground. So I pointed out that being directly at the front of the zone can be bad and being directly at the back of the zone can be bad. Where do you really want to be then? I think the ideal position for these zone 7s and possibly zone 6 rotates, if they play out like this, is somewhere where you have a zone to your side, a layer that doesn't have too many people that are directly like beside you or that are going to go in front of you. Because what I mentioned earlier is that's what causes these pileups here where people get caught in the back of zone, where you have the 50-50s that are getting forced. So you don't want people to be going in front of you and you don't want people to be blocking off your sides or just being on your layer in general. So right now I'm actually kind of liking where this guy is. He's on the side here. This position is similar, but the problem I don't like here is he's got people too close to him on his layer, and this can cause problems because these people can build up over him, they can go under him, and possibly cause up that pile up. So what you can see that's going to happen around this point in the game, around mid zone 7, is everybody's going to start running out of mats, and we're going to have like about half the lobby die. So here we go. Everybody gets caught back here because they're running out of mats, and everybody's actually going for the floppers right now. More people running out of mats. And yeah, half the lobby just dies right there. Right now we're back at mid zone 7, where I mentioned that a lot of people start running out of mats and start getting into these 50-50 fights. And also remember, the people at the back of zone here also get punished for this, because even if they do have mats, they're still going to have people that are desperate in front of them forcing 50-50s and basically blocking their path and getting everybody caught in the storm. So for this point in the game, I actually want to point out where Zykoma is right now. He has floppers at this point, and I think this is the best point where you just want to get out. You want to get out of the back of zone. The back of zone right at the edge is going to be where everybody's going to be dying. And right now he's using his floppers at probably the best time possible. And you can see by using his floppers at around this time, he's avoided this whole buildup of desperate players in the back with no mats and that mass 50-50 action going on. And he's actually stayed even further back. And this also allows him to sneak up and get really free high ground here. You see, it's really easy. He's using like 2 mats, barely has to build, and then he connects himself and he's good. It's the easiest high ground take in the world. And not only that, this is a point in the game where high ground is actually going to be important. Being high ground during zone 6 and zone 7 is very hard to keep, because at that point in the game you're actually a center of attention. A lot of RPGs get directed at you, you get sprayed down a lot just by certain people that are looking to take height, and you also have people contesting height for no reason that you're going to have to block off, or you're going to have to build higher up to actually contest these guys, and they may start build fights. Holding high ground from zone 6 all the way to this point in the game is very difficult, and the only reason you'd actually save mats from playing high ground from zone 6 to this point is if nobody actually contested you and nobody shot at you and nobody did anything. Otherwise, you're a center of attention and you're taking a lot of heat. So this is the point in the game where you can actually use your high ground to finish the last players. That's what he does. He barely has to build. Not very many RPGs going around at this point in the game. And there we go, there's that really nice connect move, and you can just save yourself by doing that. I don't think he has a lot of mats left here either. There. So yeah. Okay, so next I want to go over actually just how useful looking at the map is like this. You don't want to zoom in too far because then the names kind of block everything, so just like this point where you can just see the people walking around. Yeah, just watching the map like this for every game that you play can be super useful just to see how things play out. See, here's that mid zone 7 where everybody runs out of mats and gets caught out. So yeah, that's another cool way you can look at VODs. So yeah, watching as many drone-free VODs as you can be super helpful for learning endgame. I've watched a ton of these. I also go into the tournaments and make sure to watch all the top players and see if I can watch any of their replays from this perspective and just see how those cup games play out, because they do play out quite different. Or this was actually a custom game or a scrim. So you can see that everybody was kind of playing efficiently. Everybody was kind of going to the front of the zone. If you look at cup games, they don't always play out like that. They play out a little different. Not everybody is as organized. This endgame stuff is kind of like the highest variable part of the game. It takes a long time to learn. There's a lot of little things. It's very difficult to make an exact science out of it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to show for this video. Thanks, guys.